common room. We're going to talk all about signals and all sorts of stuff, but yeah, it'll be great. David, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's see. Let's get deeper here. I want to see where the thread is. My two of my roommates in college lived in Mount Lebanon. Let's see how many attendees we got. 110. Oh my gosh, 112. We're ripping. Florin, this was got to be partly because of you, man. You're driving the traffic in here. This is
Yeah, I feel like you say that to every guest. Now you're just buttering me up.
I do, but this time I mean it. And hey, it's a holiday one too. Our December events can get a little tricky. I think people are already cooking and traveling and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. Oh, nice. Thanks, David. I'm connected with you right now, my friend. Well, great. It is one after the hour. Are we still going up? Still going up? All right. Well, cool. I'll do my introduction while people still flood in. So for folks who don't know me, my name is Pete Crowley. I run growth here at RB2B. Adam, as well as Santosh and some other folks on our team are at an executive offsite yesterday and today. So I'm subbing in for a couple of live events. But Adam will be back next week, I believe. And today we have a great episode. Since we've launched our B2B, we have been getting the question of what now? How do you use this signal? What do I do with this information now that you're identifying website visitors? And I mean, really nobody better to bring in than our buddy Florin, who's over at Common Room and runs a bunch of STR sales over there. Florin, you want to say hello to the world and just introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about Common Room, just to give folks some background on what this Common Room does.
Yeah, 100%. Super excited to be here. Big fan of RB2B. Common Room is also a customer of RB2B. So we're a platform that aggregates. We have hundreds of different signals so that you can build out like very customized and hyper personalized campaigns. So we do have our own website visitor identification, but I actually noticed that there's almost no overlap between the info we get from RB2B and ours. So I'm a big believer in having multiple solutions for that and casting a way wider net. So big fan. Yeah, I'm the head of SDRs here at Common Room. Been here for about 6 months. And I love all things pipeline and prospecting. I've been doing this in the tech world for about 10 years now at 4 different companies. So like to believe that I know a thing or two. And I think this is a really hot space. And it's one of the reasons I joined Common Room. And yeah, super excited to get a bit tactical today.
Well, cool. Yeah, we're gonna dive into all those like different signals and kind of the way you're running. And yeah, I think safe to say with this many rounds under your belt, it's a repeatable science at this point, and that seems to be the case with people, whether they're entrepreneurs or any type of team leads. So awesome. Let's get into really kind of a main topic today, which is like the challenge in booking demos with anonymous visitors, or just like, I mean, it's really like cold. It's kind of like cold leads in general, but especially anonymous visitors. A lot of our B2B users, this is like easily the most repeated question we get from people who just sign up during their trial. They say, great, what do I do now? They try to interact with these people. We'll give them playbook, we'll give our users playbooks of like, hey, you should, connect with them on LinkedIn within 24 hours. Don't send a message, then send them an email and a LinkedIn message to follow up. And still a lot of people fall flat on that motion. So I have some theories as to why this is. But before I just start monologuing, what do you believe the cause of this kind of these failed motions for really younger sales motions who are just trying to figure it out? Like, these should be warm leads. They should be slam dunks, right, Florin?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a number of different reasons. Obviously, like not everybody that goes on your website, first of all, is going to be in your ICP. And not all website visitors are created equal. It's like there's many different reasons why someone is on your website, even if they are in your ICP. but it's like someone can just be curious because you posted something on LinkedIn about our B2B, and Adam gets a lot of traffic, obviously. So that could be one reason. They could be looking to get a job. They could just genuinely be curious. And actually we're looking for something completely different, but ended up in a rabbit hole on your website. So it's important that we don't assume things, and we don't treat everybody that comes on our website equally. And I think there's an extra layer of due diligence. And we're going to talk about this a little bit, but like this idea of stacking signals. So for me, a website visit is just one indication of potential intent, but there's a lot more that needs to go into it before you reach out.
Absolutely. I want to draw a parallel to what you just said. So we have a community called RBDB Insiders. Every Tuesday we do a coaching call. And this morning, and someone asked me on the coaching call, they said, "Hey, we've been talking a lot about me drilling down into a niche. Like, is solopreneur a niche?" And I said, "That's a company size. A niche is a layer of industry and many characteristics layered together to give you a unique group of identifiers. And that's basically what you're doing with signals. You're just putting it into intent buckets, and different intent buckets get treated differently. Is that fair to say?"
That's exactly right.
Awesome. I fully agree. So there are ways to use these signals effectively. There are ways to use them less effectively. To your point, if you were to hop into RB2B or any other tool that's identifying anonymous visitors, and you were to treat them all as leads and put them into a high value campaign and treat them like everybody else, you're probably not going to really get very far. So it's really that layering. I don't think there's a better time, Florin. I think we should bring up that playbook.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's
The,
dive in.
the, the one thing I'll mention as well, like when you're a company that actually sells website visitor ID, we have seen some success ourselves calling it out, but most companies don't have that luxury because you're not selling the website ID. So there's also some personas that are much more forgiving if you do call out that someone's that they're on your website. Like sales and marketing folks kind of get it, right? Like there's been some form of website ID, whether it's like Clearbid or some of these different platforms for many years, like 6sense and Demandbase have, account level ID, not contact level. But I've noticed this in the past too, when I'm like, I was selling into engineering at one point, or if you're selling to like security folks, you absolutely cannot call that out. You're going to absolutely get destroyed, and they're pretty much going to, I've literally had people like do say like cease and desist, like all this kind of like crazy stuff in the past. So you want to be careful with certain persona and really understand like who these people are, what they care about. So be very careful there.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
let's definitely go.
Cybersecurity are the that is the most sensitive. They're also the hardest to get a hold of. Like they already have all of the, you know, parameters of 20, 30 to block you out. And if you get through, they like to know why. So anyway, interesting niche, but let's continue the combo as we go through this playbook, because Lauren showed it to me yesterday. I love that. I was like, we have to go through this. So let's
Yeah,
do
and
it.
if anybody knows me, I like to get a little bit tactical. So this is part of our playbook around like contact level intent and signals. We're pretty much on a lot of these signal based sequences, getting 15% plus reply rates, and we're not just booking meetings. Like we've grown our ARR by about 3x already this year. So clearly something's like working here for us. Now, to level set this a little bit, I think some people feel like signals is a very hot topic. Like in this year alone, if 2024, if there was one thing that's hot, I think it's signals, AI, SDRs. But one thing you should understand is that signals are not anything new. Salespeople have been using signals forever. The main thing that's actually different now is that we have the technology to gain deeper access into understanding like where a prospect is in the buyer journey, and for sales to actually reach out with the right message at the right time. One of those signals is contact level ID, whether that's, with RB2B, common room, there's a ton of different potential vendors out there, right? In common room, like we have access to a plethora of different signals. So the main point I'm trying to drive here is that no one company is going to use all of these signals. The point is to figure out, like with web identification and other signals, how do you figure out how to prioritize leads and which ones are actually like ready to have a call with sales. So this is just like an example of how many potential signals like we can track now with technology. And I'm going to show you some of the combinations with website visitor ID that we do at Common Room.
I like that slide a lot. The other thing I hear a lot is like what people will often take a certain marketing channel, like email marketing, and put all their eggs in that. And it's nice to see a whole array of different signals that you can get, knowing that, hey, I just need to find the absolute, top couple for me. And there's actually a lot of different arrows in the quiver that I can choose from. So this
Yeah.
is like a very, very great slide.
Yeah, and even with like our customers, even large organizations usually have 3 to 5 plays that work very well. But what you can do here is actually start experimenting with different signals and stacks of signals to get to those the highest propensity plays to actually book meetings and close revenue. That's ultimately what you're trying to do, right? So the playbook I have here for today, so 3 play ideas for you all. You can use a platform like Common Room, but I think a lot of this stuff, like you can still do a little bit more manually as well. But one is, so once you identify a website visitor ID, you know some information about their tech stack and you want to look across like their job listings for some form of signal. The next one is going to be coupling the website ID with socially engaged play, which I'm calling the dark funnel, right? Like people talk about you on a number of different platforms, whether it's like LinkedIn, whether it's X, whether it's Reddit, whether it's in Discord communities or Slack communities. So there's this dark funnel where people are already talking about you. And if you couple that with website visitor ID, it becomes a much more powerful potential message. And then the last one is not for everybody. We are a PLG type motion. I believe our B2B is as well. So if you are, you can start to look for things like website visitor plus, people at that account that have signed up for a free trial. Or if you're a bit more sophisticated than just the sign up, you can start looking for things like product usage spikes or people that are using very specific functionality. And then the website visitor ID is just kind of showing like, hey, this is intent potentially. I'm a big proof is in the pudding type of guy, just to like screenshot some of our sequences. So when we run the website visitor play in itself as like one signal, we're getting pretty good results here, like a 2x compared to standard outbound, maybe a little bit more, and booking a fair amount of these. When we stack it with a socially engaged signal, you're starting to get into that 20 to 22% range on reply rates and 3x booking rates. And then when you stack it with free trials, we're starting to see like 32% reply rates, 10 to 15% bookings. So that data is there to show you like when you add other signals, the platform becomes or the website visitor ID in itself becomes more valuable. Now, I actually posted this on LinkedIn a while back, and clearly it hit a chord with everybody. The biggest mistake I still see today with a lot of people that use contact level ID is that they very specifically call out that in the email or in the cold call or whatever, it's like, hey, I noticed you're on our website. And naturally, people find this creepy. So the signal of someone being on your website should not be the reason that you are reaching out to them. So never call it out. The only people that can is if you actually sell website visitor ID, in my opinion. Treat this as a potential intent. It might be top of mind, but don't assume that they're on your website because they want to buy.
Yeah, and to go along with that too, I will tell people like, let's say somebody's on a certain product page, right? Instead of maybe messaging just about that product, instead of being like, oh, this person's ready to buy that product, it could just be a signal of higher intent and that they're worthy of a more custom outreach. Hey, maybe I send this person a custom video and I do a little deeper research on what their pain points and what tools they're currently using.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is like the more positive signals I have, the higher and higher it gets on my sort of scoring list, and whoever's at the top is going to get the high, those kind of like high intent activities, and it just lets me know what type of energy to basically put into who.
Yeah. And that's actually a good call out. A lot of this is about lead scoring and prioritization. Like we build lead scores where if someone's on our website, that gives them a certain amount of points and we know who they are. Then they also engage on socials. They're also in a free trial. They're also like hiring for a specific, like for us, it's like SDRs, AEs, or RevOps. That all kind of like adds to the lead score and helps the sales team prioritize like who to go after.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Like if you dump these leads into, or if you get a bunch of signals and then you just put them into your regular email campaign, it's just like, yeah, it's like pouring water on the coals a little bit, unfortunately.
Exactly. So play one. This is an email that like we would use. So we de-anonymize a website visit. We know the exact person. We're then looking for tech stack. So we believe that we have a pretty good story against a company like Demandbase. Sorry if anyone from Demandbase is here, at least for like this specific like signal sales use case. And then I'm also going to stack a third signal of job listings. So if they're hiring like enterprise AEs, for example, that's like a pretty good signal for us. So what we would do here, and notice there's no information here where I'm saying that we're reaching out to someone with, or we know they're on our website. It's just a time for me to reach out to that person with a more compelling email. And I'm calling out here, notice that they're hiring two AEs. If that's the case, I kind of have like my problem statement with Demandbase and the fact that we don't actually know the exact person that is showing the intent. You just know account level intent, which is very frustrating for people like me in the past and for a lot of sales and marketing teams. And then one thing I really like to do is you'll notice in my subject line, actually calling out a top AE. This is kind of a bit of a trick that gets away from signals, but it's called finding out the mavericks at a company. Managers are more interested in learning what the top reps or top employees are doing as opposed to if you just call out like anybody at that company. So it's like, looks like this person hit 150% of their quota last year. We just do that by actually searching on like a sales navigator to see a lot of people like put that in their bios, or someone that's actually been promoted many times over the last few years shows that they're usually a top performer and valuable to that company. So that's just a little extra trick that I like to tell people for prospecting.
So would you send that to people even above that AE? Their managers, other people at that company? Or would you send it just to other kind of lateral, just from a hierarchy standpoint?
Yeah, so this would be an email that I would send to like decision makers.
That's awesome. One other question, I'm sure we'll see a couple more emails. I want to ask a question early. So there's a couple ways I'm sure a lot of people know you can populate this information. You can either have it be automated, so that way the fields are getting populated, say, into your CRM, and then when they hit a certain, certain group of criteria, they workflow enroll into a sequence, and then the different fields will populate these little areas. That's one way to do it. The other way is for when someone hits, X number of pieces of criteria, they get basically a task to fill this out manually to make sure that kind of it's airtight, if you will. What way do you guys run it over at Common Room? Like, what's the way of actually getting these out the door?
Yeah, it depends. So we can use Common Room to get some of this information as well. So like we can automatically plug in like competitors. Um, we can do some of the research in our platform with some of like the AI that we have. And there's a lot of companies that use things like Clay, for example. You can do something similar there. Or when you're actually adding someone into like a sequencer, you can go ahead and actually add a custom field. And when you're doing the research up front, just adding the top AE name there so it automatically populates. That makes it all a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. The automation at scale, or the customization at scale, I should say, is huge. I would encourage everybody who is not fully CRM proficient and doesn't quite have their sales process fully dialed in, just for these top level, super hot people. They have all the signals, they're glowing holographic red, like hit me, just do it manual to start. Just be manual, be custom, do things that don't scale. It'll actually work a little bit better and you won't burn as much stuff. So anywho, that is my bit. Let's continue on.
The other big mistake that I think a lot of people make when they do get website IDs and why it might not be successful is that they're not very focused on speed to lead. It is absolutely critical that if something is top of mind and someone's on your website, you're ideally going to get to them within a 15-minute period. The conversions drop significantly when it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't think speed to lead is something that should be new for most people. Like even back in the day before we had like routing like Chili Piper to book meetings automatically for reps, my SDR teams had like there's an SLA of an hour after a demo request, but we would actually try to get them within 10 minutes. And booking rates drop significantly after that. So the way that we do this, we have a channel on Slack called CR Web Visits. This actually feeds us our B2B contacts and common room contacts. So, and then I have specific Slack channels for every single rep. So we can automatically route the lead based off of CRM ownership to the appropriate SDR Slack channel. And we're making sure we're getting to them automatically, or you could even build out workflows for this as well. But this is like super, super key that you're getting to them extremely quickly.
That's awesome. That is much quicker than we used to recommend, or I guess probably still do in our documentation. We should probably update that because we say 24 hours, but like sometimes people wait 48 or 72, and like if you're seeing a drop off after 10 or 15 minutes, 72 hours is just, it might as well be next year. So
I'm kind of curious, like, do you have data on that, or why was that the case?
So the recommendation, and this was just like our experiments and the experiments of our agencies who run some of our they run some of our channels, but they run our B2B for a lot of other companies. We were just seeing this, like if you connect on LinkedIn and then send them a LinkedIn and an email within 24 hours after they accept the invite, it'll be far enough away for them to like not really know that like connect the website visit thing, but like they still have brand awareness, and then they would have this like personal level of awareness once they accept the LinkedIn invite, and then we would recommend they reference the LinkedIn invite instead of the website visit. But that's all great if all of those activities happen really quickly, but I don't think they happen very quickly. And yeah, so you're saying like even if they, you know, regardless of a LinkedIn connection, like they have brand awareness, just reach out to them, like they're top of mind.
Yeah, I think the key link here is like, so we're within 15 minutes, you should be able to see who's on your site. And at least with common room, like we can stack multiple signals automatically. So I can go and see here like Eric, BDR manager. I can quickly go on their profile and see like a bunch of other information about them and then feed them into a sequence. So if you can do it as they're on your website and be able to build some kind of compelling message and quickly find some of this information, that's what's working for us right now.
That's great. I love that.
So a few other key takeaways here. I think speed to lead, we obviously talked about. ICP filtering is critical, like especially if you're you know, a company still figuring out product market fit, like you do want to test out and automatically have filters in place. And I know you can do this in both our B2B and common room automatically, so that you're actually only getting alerted when it's people that are even worth considering reaching out to. Signal stacking, as I showed you with some of those plays, it's good to have multiple signals that you're thinking about in your message before reaching out to them. And then what you want to do is you can actually automate these workflows at scale once you've proven that that type of messaging is working. And then one of the last points I want to make, which I think is critical, is around building an account POV. At the end of the day, the signal in itself in isolation is not very valuable. It's about figuring out like across multiple signals, whether that's person level signals, like what that person's doing on their digital buying journey, or at the account level, you're trying to figure out if I have 5 signals, they're hiring enterprise AEs. They're using this tech stack. They were on our website. They signed up for a free trial. Somebody changed jobs from a previous customer. What you're doing there is you're analyzing what is the best point of entry into an account. So don't just take a signal by itself in isolation and use that for the reason to reach out. Like if there's one idea to leave with, I think that's the one from today.
I think everyone leads with the same exact thing, and it's like just contextualize it, especially if you're small and you're already doing the manual anyway. Just take that. Yeah, I really like that as a takeaway. That's like very underappreciated.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Harish asked something. We're gonna get to a Q&A shortly after this. He asked a question about like Google captures versus what anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there about the discrepancies. I'm curious Florin's take. I have a take myself, but we'll get there. Yeah, you're welcome. All right.
Yeah, going through another play. Do we have time to go through another play?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Okay,
We're good.
cool. So here's another, like, I'm calling it a signal stack where now this only works if like your prospects are on social channels, like even on X, for example. I find to be a really good one that's underutilized by um, a lot of salespeople, depending on who you sell to, obviously. But you get the website visit, and then you stack a filter for people that have also engaged with you on social channels. And then it's a pretty simple framework. So again, we're never going to call out that we know they're on our website, but you can call out, for example, an observation based on like a social post, right? Then what we're going to do is we're also going to stack. There's That's the person level signal, and then there's what I'm calling like the account level signal, company wide signal or observation, which I think is key if you actually want to like win real revenue in business, because it doesn't just matter that someone's on, your website or interacting with like an X post. The company has to actually have a good reason to purchase that solution. So that's the only way to actually convert revenue, right? So this is a standard template that we would use for a web ID plus social engagement. So just to show you like what an example of an email would look like. So Brian Leman is what, we sell to salespeople. So Brian Leman, he posts quite a bit on X. So what I can do is I'll automatically get alerted when these two things happen and run a play at scale that'll alert the rep. Stumbled upon Brian Lamanna's post on X today where he shared like these 4 things around win rates on pilots. This is, by the way, for a company called Aligned, which does mutual action plans. So what we're doing here is we're monitoring X for anybody mentioning mutual action plans if I was a company like Aligned. And when people are on our website and then running again an email like this, that's very relevant and has nothing to do with the actual website ID.
So is the other okay, so is Common Room also identifying the comment on the post? Is it tracking them amongst their social It's kind of building out a profile for these people and tracking other activities.
Exactly. So X is the one thing that's great about X is we can they're very lenient in like scraping their data to some degree. So it's like we can actually track any hashtag, we can track any mention of a word like mutual action plan. We can track like any account and tell you who's engaging with that as a signal.
That's awesome. And for folks who haven't gone down the rabbit hole of social listening, yeah, X, Reddit, although Reddit's like pretty anonymous, so it's really hard to track people that way. But X, like Facebook, Instagram, pretty easy to get that information. LinkedIn, notoriously, I don't know, impossible. Like if you try to scrape, they'll even if they think you might be scraping, they'll flag your account. So
Yeah.
but that's especially if your audience is on X.
Yeah,
Um,
X and Reddit are like we can also track subreddits automatically for specific like keywords. And we do try to de-anonymize the people. It's not always easy, but we have like a machine learning algorithm that looks at things like avatars. We can see if you use the same avatar across multiple platforms, and we try to like match that person together. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about Common Room,
I
which
did
I
not
find to
know
be
that.
super helpful.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Um,
Yeah.
my handle has Pete in the name, but that's all I'll tell you. Um, oh, cool. This is awesome. This is really great.
And this is actually the last slide that I have some bonus takeaways here. So uh, one thing to mention that I also don't think a lot of people really take in, you don't actually always have to reach out to the person displaying the signal. Like if I know that an account executive is on our website and I know the person, but he's not my ICP necessarily, like I can go to somebody else at that company. And I'm just using that as an idea that, hey, maybe there's a problem here that we can solve if there's all these various people that are starting to come on our website, but maybe they're not like the actual buyer. So you don't have to think about the contact level signal as at just the contact level. It's still important that you think about it at the account level as well.
Yeah, that's really what it is, right? It's not the assumption of a lot of our users, especially when we launched, is that like, oh, these are the leads to reach out to, but the thinking of an account level signal, and instead of saying, oh, they're about to purchase, saying, hey, this is really a brand awareness signal, and like, how do you capitalize on a brand awareness signal? Well, you deliver more awareness, and you try to spread the awareness, kind of deeper within the organization to more champions and influencers. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, 100%. And then even like, let's say it's someone below the line, so not a manager or decision maker, you can send them, you can just be valuable to them, like send them resources to help them out, nurture them, and then like ask them. We do a lot of groundswell prospecting at Common Room, so we try to get information from end users, and then build a hypothesis and go to the executive team. So that's a great way to signal who might be willing to like engage with you and give you some kind of information.
Is there a strategy you have for like if a somebody kind of lower on the hierarchy visits, do you have a strategy for how to go upstream, or you sort of just start, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we actually have we have specific groundswell sequences. This is again a bit caveat here. It's a bit easier when you're selling to sales people because they kind of get it. So SDRs and A's are willing to meet with us more than like trying to do this. A developer's not going to meet with a salesperson to give them information. Like, so just take all advice with somewhat of a grain of salt depending on the context there. But yeah, like a big strategy for us is like our SDRs reaching out to other SDRs, whether it's on LinkedIn or over email, or even giving them a quick call that have been on our website and just being like, hey, man, salesperson to salesperson, I'm trying to reach out to, Bob, who I know is like your VP. Any chance like we can just chat for 5 minutes? I just want to understand how you're doing these like three things. And then, especially in the mid market and enterprise, that's where you can get really good information. It's your only opportunity to really break through the noise. Like it's very hard to try to get a C-level exec meeting in the enterprise off of like cold email or cold calls. It's really hard.
Especially if they know it's going to be a sales call. I mean, or almost anybody. I think the campaigns for the really small folks that I've been recommending people run and that they've seen success in is saying like, hey, I'm building this new thing. I want to get some advice from some like industry leaders. I'm also like talking to people to try to get some industry advisors as I build this thing, which is very honest. I mean, that you legitimately at that early stage are just looking for feedback. And even as you're going up, I mean, you can still have this be framed as the feedback call. You can still collect feedback, but be giving them insights into how you could provide value. And if there's a opportunity for them to use your product, or like they jive with your solution, like it's going to be, they're not going to keep it a secret at all. So you don't have to just punch them in the face like, hey, I really want to hop on the call because I saw you were on my website.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Cool. Oh, and one other thing, as Florin said, take all of this as information, not prescription. This is, I mean, how many experiments have you run that have failed? Like most, I mean, for me, it's like almost everything, and then what doesn't fail, it just happened. Like we slowly stack over time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of feeds into this last point that I have around like stacking signals. I said that a few times now, but the point of having multiple signals and like this ideation phase is like try website ID with a free trial, with ID with follows a competitor or recent job changes in a website visitor. Now, you're not going to get a ton of these signals always, depending on like how much traffic you have and how much like, customers you have for things like job changes. But the point is like you're always iterating with combinations to see what ultimately is going to work for you.
Yeah. And I've always viewed them as like, um, I've always viewed them as proxies for telling you other things. And my best example is my last company. We were trying to find e-commerce businesses who had a high shipping volume with UPS and FedEx. Now there's no directory except for, within the shipper's system of who's spending what or how big they might be or whatever. So we did, and we also don't know if they're going to be open to the solution. We need to figure those things out from a signal standpoint. So what we landed on was like, if they have a shopping cart on their site, and if they do, what's their website traffic, or like what's the rank on the Alexa, when the Alexa list was a thing. And the third thing was like job change. Like, is there anybody new in the logistics or shipping department after they've had those other characteristics that could make them more likely to hear us out? And that was sort of the magic combination of signals that gave us the okay to like, hey, this is going to be worth that higher intent activity. So while really the end goal we wanted to get on was like, who has a high enough shipping volume that might be open to this, to hearing this pitch, the proxies were a different set of signals. So as you said, like keep experimenting, never stop, and there's just so much data out there. So try to reverse engineer what you're actually trying to solve for.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems now in like, 2024, 25. We have so much data. So now it's like figuring out what the right data to use is. It's like a reverse problem that we used to have.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And where people are active, like
Yeah.
it's different for everybody. Cool. Thank you for sharing that playbook. That was awesome. Like huge help. What signals, just like you mentioned there, Pete? Ask ChatGPT what signals. Do you mean like, yeah, Joseph, could you elaborate on your questions? Do you mean like bouncing ideas off of ChatGPT to figure out what signals you should be latching onto? Yes. All right. So let me give my take on that. I think ChatGPT and AIs are the ultimate idea machine. If I'm writing copy or I'm doing anything, like I will just bounce ideas off of it just because it's like I can talk to it, read the answers, and I can like almost ask an expert really quickly. But in this case, it's the same as talking to somebody who, like a different entrepreneur who ran another business. You should take the information as information and not a prescription of what you should do. So, like what I said about the shipping example, I don't know. This was pre ChatGPT. I don't even know what it would say, Joseph, if I was to ask it what I should use. But I would say ChatGPT is probably not going to lead you to the answer, but it could give you examples of what you might be able to explore. I would actually probably take a screen grab of Florin's signal slide as an even better answer that the ChatGPT would give you, and try to explore how you might be able to get those and what might work. So I'm not saying it wouldn't work with GPT, but I think it might not have enough context about your very specific situation to be able to give you a good enough answer. Personally. And I use AI all the time. Yeah. All right, let's start rolling through some questions here. So guys, start dropping in questions. We will answer everything that we can. I'm going to start with one from Harish, who I said right my answer. So he asked, so this is a pattern I see with our B2B users. He said, we noticed that compared to what we see that Google captures about the traffic, there's a huge difference in the terms of percentage from what we get from our B2B. What are the reasons for not being able to capture the traffic? Okay, so there's 2 points here. Number one is that our B2B does not identify everybody. I don't think anybody can. Our B2B, it basically has an identifier. It uses contact database to put together more pieces of the puzzle as to who the person might be. We can't get a complete, accurate, confident profile on everybody. On average, it's 20 to 30% of USA-based visitors. If you're targeting doctors or dentists or somebody who's like just doesn't have a robust business profile online, you're going to have a lower resolution rate. If you're targeting salespeople, marketing people, if you want to get a hold of me, people like me and Florin, pretty easy. Our info's probably been out there for over a decade. So there's that. Then there's also this weird phenomenon I noticed where we'll have, and I'm curious your experience on this, Florin. People will reach out and say, hey, I've had 20,000 visitors in the past month from the US. You've only identified 17 people. And they'll look into it and they'll say, oh man, well, I just went to Ahrefs and I see you had 90 visitors from the US in the past 30 days. And that's a big, big difference than 20,000. And I see the Ahrefs being more accurate than sometimes people's Google Analytics. This is purely an observation. I'm not diagnosing this problem, guys. Don't make a post about this. But Florin, what are you seeing and what's your opinion on that?
Sorry, opinion on
The discrepancy between Google Analytics traffic. Are there people who reach out to you and say, like, I have a ton of USA-based visitors according to Google Analytics, but there's a massive discrepancy, even with whatever your resolution rate is, compared to what I'm seeing?
Oh. Yeah, my experience is that, so even for us, like we usually say we can de-anonymize like 15 to 30% of your traffic. Now, when you filter for your ICP, that ends up 15 to 30% of your ICP on 20,000 is like not even going to be that much realistically, because most people on your website are not on your ICP. I think that's likely a fact for most people. So I think you have to consider that funnel as well. And then there's a lot of like factors that go into the identification, right? So it's like, what's the methodology for how you do it? There has to be some level of like informed consent, or that there's UTM tags. There's a lot of these different like strategies that I won't go into now of like how you can increase that number. But I think a lot of like smaller companies don't have a lot of that stuff set up the right way to actually de-anonymize enough traffic.
Yeah. Do you I just lost my train of thought. I had a follow-up question for you. Do you find that since website visitor identity has come out really in the past year, I feel like this is kind of blown up as a tool, regardless of the provider. Do you feel that it has exposed weaker quality traffic than people otherwise would have assumed for the rest of internet history?
Probably. Yeah, because even with SimilarWeb, right? It's like, oh, I get 20,000 people, but it's like, if they're not the right people, that traffic is useless.
Totally.
Pretty much.
Totally. Yeah, I was talking to somebody, they're like, they basically said, like, we had this really successful campaign, at least from a Google Analytics standpoint. We weren't getting any conversions. And then we started messing with the landing page because, like, we're getting clicks, but no conversions. So obviously it's the landing page, but like nobody that was clicking was in their audience at all. And I'm like, well, of course, no one outside of this audience is going to click inside the lens. So anyway, I think it's been a very eye-opening year for marketers.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I'm not a marketer myself, but I think like there's also a lot I think a lot of these types of tools can actually inform, like, are you generating the right types of signals for the company, or like actually shift how you're thinking about whether it's like SEO or how you're thinking about like your LinkedIn strategy and content. So something to think about for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Andy asked, so 3 omnichannel touches, email, LinkedIn, phone in 24 hours. Is that the best practice with the correct stacked signals? Okay. So when you're doing any type of outreach, there are 3 important variables. There's probably more, but like I break it down to 3 very important variables that you have to have in line. Otherwise the motion won't work. You need to be hitting the right people with the right message on the right medium. if you call me or you LinkedIn message me, I'm not going to respond because like it's just not my Bible of who I need to get back to. My LinkedIn inbox is a complete disaster. My phone, like I don't even have a business phone number technically. So like the, you know, anybody who's calling is either like Walgreens or like my parents or whatever. My friends. If it's anybody else, whatever. So it's really email, or if you tag me in a LinkedIn post, I'm about to get crushed with outbound. But if you email me or you tag me in a LinkedIn post, I am most likely going to see it. But that's unique to me. Maybe it's unique to my audience. So Andy, to answer your question, like see which of those mediums get the best response, see which message resonates the most, and see with what people they resonate the best, and try to like triple down on the combination of those and see what signals work best. So, but that is unfortunately your own exploration. We can only give you hopefully a reasonably accurate map. Harish asked, how about services? We are an analytics company targeting large to medium-sized enterprises. Everyone talks about products, selling services tough. I want to hear Florin's opinion. I will say I think you're selling a benefit, you're selling a solution, you're selling a desired after state for a subpar current state. I don't think whether it's a product or a service necessarily affects the types of signals, or I mean, maybe it does a little bit, but like, I think it's more about the benefit itself. What do you think, Florian?
Yeah, I don't think it actually matters what kind of company you are, as long as like you're directing the right traffic to your website. I think you can 100% use that signal. I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions there. The one thing that becomes more difficult, like even if you're stacking signals, so for example, at Common Room, our ICP is not vertical soft SaaS companies, which means that if our customer's buyer is not online, then we cannot generate like really great signal on them, right? They're not leaving digital breadcrumbs. So it's like construction, like lawyers. These are not people that are actively like on Reddit, on X, talking about different things, or have all these like crazy job listings that have like information about their tech stack and like their strategy and funding rounds. So the website visitor, as long as like they're being directed to your website, that's fine. For other signals, they have to be leaving digital breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so it's like, what does the signal tell you about them? So like, just to relate it back to the shipping thing, we were able to like reduce, like kind of assume that like if you have a website online that sells goods and you have a lot of traffic, that traffic is probably for buyers of those goods. If you have a shopping cart and you have maybe you have really expensive goods or whatever, but your traffic's low, you're probably just not getting the amount of purchases that are. So it's really about using proxies than like trying to find the exact characteristics you're looking for. It's like, yeah, as Florin has just really done a great job explaining, it's like, what is the stack of signals that gives me the closest representation to the ICP that I want to target? And it's probably going to be a few ICPs once you hopefully get far enough. So there we go. All right, let's keep, so 101 people, some have dropped off after Q&A. Man, Florin, that presentation hit hard, and now people are, but so let's keep Q&A going. We can always end early too. It's about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. But we'll keep Q&A going. But while we're doing that, Florin, you have quite the presence on LinkedIn. If people want to follow along on your journey, LinkedIn, is that the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to reach out
To
to me.
follow you, sorry. I don't want to get you crushed with messages. To follow.
I don't mind. I'll even just drop my like LinkedIn here in chat. I don't know if I can message everyone here.
I don't think I can either. Hey, John,
Oh,
I just popped it into the host and panelists. Are you able
there we go.
to drop that link into everybody? So
That's not.
yes, follow along on Florin. He
Yes.
is a LinkedIn inspiration of mine, I will say. He's got that top voice badge on there, 67,000 followers. Somehow we apparently know 670 mutual people, allegedly. But okay, perfect. Yeah, John just dropped that in there for everyone. So guys, go follow Florin, follow along on Common Room's journey. I think we're doing similar things for different people. And as Florin said, he's a user of our B2B. We love what Common Room's doing. They do different things, they identify different people, and I don't quite know why that is yet, but we have the same mission to stack signals and just help make funnel efficiency less daunting. So that is the goal here. If there's no final words from the crowd, we'll do 5 seconds. If there's no final questions, we're gonna give you back 9 minutes. It's your holiday gift from the two of us, giving you back some time. And I appreciate everyone for joining. We'll post the recording on YouTube. That'll be posted tomorrow. I'll post it on our B2B Academy if anyone follows that. And feel free to reach out if you have questions. But thank you all so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you soon. Florin, thank you, my friend.
Happy holidays, everybody, and happy
killer session.
Thanks, man. It was great to be here. See ya.
Yeah. Bye, guys.